Hush, hush, thought I heard her calling my name now. Hush, hush, broke my heart, but I love it just the same now.
Hello, my yinzers and yinzettes. Today is Thursday, let's see, what would it be, July 9th, I guess? And back in the wonderful Adams Point studios for the Indentured Longsnapper. Did a little work on the set here and there. These projects just seem to evolve. Let's have a big hand for the Snapper's introduction today. That was going to play at the end, of course, the entire song. That song is Hush by Deep Purple from way back when. The reason for that song choice is today we're going to try to tell some of these internet personalities to hush. Like I said, I'm not going to get personal here. I'm going to tell you facts and truth. You got that, Snapper? All right. Counting on you, buddy. Got quite a few little charts and graphics and pictures to put up today because we are going to talk about a subject that if I'm an expert on anything in this world, it's going to be this aspect of dentistry. Now, there's a lot of aspects of dentistry. Some of the things they're doing in periodontal universe and you know the new implant protocols for taking out all of your teeth and putting in these what they call all on 4 or 3 on 6 racks of teeth just on get your teeth in a day type of thing. I've been checking that out because that in a lot of ways goes against everything that I have been taught and practicing for 40 years with implants. We'll have another video on that. And I would think lots of videos on a lot of stuff. Hopefully we can keep going. This takes a lot of time. It's amazing. But the good news is it makes me study and relearn stuff that I haven't looked at since, some of it since dental school. Because I want to make sure I'm telling you the truth. And I want to be accurate as far as I possibly can tell. So everything I'm going to tell you today is current because it is the most ancient part of dentistry. All right. What causes cavities? How do you prevent them? How do you make the teeth stronger in the arena of preventing cavities? Tell you what, you guys got me all nervous here. I didn't even put on my headphones. I like headphones. I'm used to them with all the music recording and everything, and I just like hearing my voice. Anyway. All right, well, I got a question for you. What is the most prevalent chronic disease on this planet Earth? I mean, there's lots of cancer, heart disease, renal disease, diabetes. Man, we got to get a handle on diabetes. We got to start eating better and getting some exercise, folks. You can't just, take medicine to fix this. You got to make some lifestyle changes. We all do. I mean, I'm no twig myself. I'm in pretty good shape, but there's probably 30 pounds I could stand to lose. But the answer to that question, the most prevalent chronic disease on earth, is what dentists call dental caries. C-A-R-I-E-S. Caries. That's our word for cavities. All right. So something like 9 billion people, 2.9 billion people are walking around with active decay in their mouth. It's something like, where's my 91% of adults aged 20 to 64 have experienced tooth decay. And obviously, as with most afflictions, it's worse in low-income families and low-income areas. Generally, these things are diet-related. There's so many factors, just like everything else in this world. But so, bottom line, there's a lot of decay out there. This just kind of makes dentists shake their heads, right? I mean, I don't know if I told you this last time, but there has not been a profession, group of people, whatever, that have tried to put themselves out of business as hard as dentists have, right? From the time you're a little kid, you hear what you're not supposed to eat because it's going to cause cavities. Now, you don't get to details, and we're going to go into details here in just a minute, but the culprit, honestly, depending on how you look at it, the culprit is not actually sugar. The culprit is the lactic acid that's made by the bacteria that eat the sugar in your mouth. All right? That's all these little, pardon me, pieces of shit do, is they eat sugar, ferment it, and give off, the byproduct is lactic acid. All right? The lactic acid, if left to sit around the teeth, is what eats away the tooth and causes what we know as a cavity. All right. So let's Snapper. Let's give them that first graphic up there. This is one of those Venn diagrams, V-E-N-N, that our wonderful first female vice president just loves. She loves Venn diagrams. Well, they're nice because they just simplify it. And if you look at this Venn diagram that we're going to put up there, there's the three things that are involved with cavities. They are carbohydrates, so just sugar. And when we say sugar, I mean, it's, your table sugar is sucrose. Sucrose is what we call a disaccharide, di meaning two. So there is a glucose and a fructose in a molecule of sucrose. Right? Now, glucose and fructose is called fruit sugar, but it's basically the same as glucose. It's just sort of a different twisted form of it. So they call, in any event, sucrose is the major offender. Bacteria, and we're going to talk about which bacteria, because again, here's a graphic for you. Snapper, put up the one about what the oral flora and fauna consist of, right? This slide says there are 700 different bacteria that live in the mouth. I can believe that. In fact, I think that, in different scenarios, there's probably a lot more. Some, there might be some somewhat less, but generally speaking, so that's a lot of bacteria. Okay. Now, bacteria like to live in certain places. Okay. I can't go there. I was going to describe a different part of the body that basically only has two. All right, I'm going to describe it. Forgive me. All right, it's embarrassing, but all right, the vagina, right, just has lactobacillus and our friend Candida albicans, which is yeast, yeast infection. So two, okay, in the mouth. There are in the ballpark of 700. Okay, now some of these prefer to live some places. Some of them prefer to live other places. When I say places, I mean generally involved with: are they in air, or do they not like to grow in air? Right. So aerobes like to grow in air. Anaerobes basically cannot grow in air. They have to be in a place sheltered from oxygen. Our concern today, so again, going back to our Venn diagram, one of the circles, carbohydrates, the sugars, right? The sugars. The second one is the bacteria that we just spoke about. The third one is time, all right? Very important. Very important. We're going to save that for a little farther down the road. Basically, we covered enough about carbohydrates here. I'm not going to beat you guys to death with too much science here today. I mean, if you in the comments, if you want to get heavy duty on any science, let me know. I would love to do that for you. I'm a science guy. I'm a nerd. I'll admit it. I'm a nerd that used to like to play football and do martial arts and all that type of stuff. But at heart, I'm a nerd. I read stuff. I'm on YouTube to learn things. And again, that's why I hope you all are here with me today, because I don't want to waste your time, and I certainly don't want to waste my time. But for this area we're going to talk about today, I want to make sure I go on record as concerned and involved in teaching you what's going on in here. Because, I mentioned in the first video that, dentists take a lot of abuse out there. Man, we're going to have a video on why dentistry is so expensive and all this other stuff that I read that people are just pissed off about, and just teeing off on dentists being these criminals. But truth be known, we are deeply concerned about you. Now, we also cannot figure out why dental caries, why cavities are still such a big deal. I mean, I'm going to tell you today exactly how to never get a cavity again. Your dental bills will go, whoosh. All right? Get your teeth cleaned once a year. Bang. You done. All right? That's it. Now, like I said before, teeth break. Every once in a while, the nerve of the tooth just decides to die, because that's life. That's how things go. You didn't do anything wrong. Nobody did anything wrong. The nerve dies. All right, you need a root canal, or you need that tooth extracted. And you know what? Unless you got balls bigger than mine, you ain't doing that yourself. You can learn a lot of stuff on YouTube, but yeah, and honestly, I have had a farmer or two patient yanked his own tooth, but they were more than likely pretty close to ready to come out. You'd be surprised the force it takes to get a tooth that's not really ready to come out. God puts them in there to stay. So anyway, getting back to our subject today, I'm going to do my part today. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on. We're going to shoot down some of these myths that these people are telling you. And I guess we've already gotten started in that. So let's continue on. We can't really go much farther today without talking about acidity, right? What is acidity? What's an acid? An acid is a substance that when you put it in water, it either dissolves completely into hydrogen atoms and whatever else was hooked up to the hydrogen, or, you know, if it's not that's a strong acid, like 100% of it turns into hydrogen and whatever, like chlorine, hydrochloric acid, bang, bang. That's a strong acid. You throw that in water, you're going to get protons and chlorine. Some other acids, I'm not going to belabor the point here, they don't dissolve that completely, and they're referred to as weak acids, right? But what we're dealing with in our realm, in the dental realm, is lactic acid, all right? Lactic acid, depending on the concentration of it, the pH is somewhere around 3.5, right? So we're talking about acidity. We just talked about technically what is an acid. You know what? The opposite of an acid is a base, all right? So a substance that gives up protons is an acid. A substance that sort of scarfs up those hydrogen atoms is a base, right? Like the one we're going to talk about today is bicarbonate, like the one that's in your toothpastes, stuff like that. That's, you know, the Arm & Hammer baking soda toothpaste. We're talking about bicarbonate. So that's what sort of buffers, that's called buffering when we take the acidity away. So we can't really talk about acidity and bases without the pH scale, all right? So Snapper, put the pH scale up there for the folks. Okay, as you can see, the middle, it goes from 0 to 14, so the middle is 7, is basically water, okay? Well, water is kind of neither acidic or basic. There just has to be an inflection point where you go between two things, and that point on the scale is water, all right? Now, like I said, the acids that we're dealing with today are lactic acid. We'll just leave it at lactic acid because these bacteria in your mouth eat sugar, ferment that sugar, give off a product that's called lactic acid. It's about a 3.5 pH. Now, the pH scale is what we call a logarithmic scale. It's not, you know, if you go from 1 to 2, whatever's at 2 isn't just 2 times more than 1. All right. Log scales, again, if you go back to your trigonometry or whatever, so tempting to get into math here, but I'm not going to do that. Log scales in science are developed so that we can talk about either very, very large numbers or very, very small numbers without kind of writing it all out with all these zeros and taking up all that space, whatever. So we talk about a logarithmic scale. Okay, so basically on our pH scale, with each jump, so going from 7 to 6, all right, as you can see on there, when we're going from 7 to 6, we're getting more acidic. From 7 to 6, 6 is 10 times as much acid, 10 times as acidic as 7 is. So each jump is 10 times the one before. So if we go from 7 to 5, whatever's at 5, you can look underneath, and what's down there? Milk? something like that. I really don't have that in front of me. But anyway, so that is 10, and then 10 times 10. 5 is 100 times as acidic as 7, which is the neutral, which is kind of the 0 point for acidity. All right. So you go farther than that. All right. Let's go down to 4. So 7, 6, 5, 4. So from 7 to 6, 10 times more acidic. Next one, 100 times as acidic as the neutral. Go to the next one. What's 10 times 100? That's 1,000 times more. Go to the next one. That's 10,000 times more. So when you get down to pH 2, or pH 2 is what's in your stomach. All right, that's hydrochloric acid. pH of 1 or so is like battery acid. They always, sulfuric acid. I mean, you pour that stuff on the floor and it just starts smoking. It's eating right through it's don't have that in your body. Now, how does your stomach have something as acidic as hydrochloric acid in it, and you're not in wicked pain from it? Well, God in his infinite wisdom puts cells around your stomach that secrete this type of protein, this mucus, whatever, that shields the cells from that heavy acid. The cells in your stomach also turn over very quickly, so they do get damaged, but they're kind of turned into poop very regularly. So anyway, let's back up into dental world here. Digestive system is marvelous, and if you want to talk about that, I'm glad to do that too, because what ends up here ends up down there, and it's each end is just fascinating. So let's stick with my end of the tube here. So we're up in the mouth, and you eat something. Immediately, the acidity in your mouth starts to climb. Okay. Now, that by itself sounds very scary. It all depends, as I said, on that third circle in the Venn diagram. Okay, so carbohydrates, bacteria, time. Right. So you eat something, the acidity starts to go up. All right. So now, what did you eat? This matters. The form that it's in. Okay. If you eat some crackers or something like that. Crackers are basically fully carbohydrate, and they are a problem because they are somewhat, and this is our word that we're concerned with in dentistry, they are somewhat retentive, okay? They stick to your teeth. Now let's talk for a minute about the places where they stick, because the places where they stick is where you're going to get cavities. The places where they don't stick, or if it's something that is just not sticky to any great degree, you're not going to get a cavity there. So this little model of teeth, I mean, it's just a very simple little model, but it details the areas that we're talking about. So the most common area for you to get a cavity, and over the years I've told people many times, these kind of aren't your fault. They are, but they're not, because you ate the stuff that is going to cause the cavity, and you didn't have to do that. But that's my little security blanket here, my football. And so the areas that you can get a cavity, certainly you can get a cavity all over the tooth. I have never, in 40 plus years of doing dentistry, God knows how many situations I've been involved with over that time. But these smooth surfaces of the teeth, the ones that are right next to your cheek, the ones that are right next to your lips, the ones that you can just rub over with your tongue, okay? Very, very unlikely you're going to get a cavity there unless you don't own a toothbrush and you just don't give a shit. All right. Homeless people that are out there, when I was a resident down on the north side of Pittsburgh, again, Allegheny General Hospital, we would see a lot of homeless people there. And man, it is a shame what can happen to a human being. But anyway, in polite society where people do own a toothbrush and some toothpaste, and they have been at least somewhat educated as to how to take care of their mouth, put it this way, I have never done a cavity on these surfaces that are just nice and smooth and the cheek is rubbing over them all the time, or the lips are rubbing all over, or the tongue can just go and just wipe stuff off of them. That's not where cavities happen. And it's funny because that's where people brush their teeth the most. They're like, oh, I'm scrubbing my teeth with. Truth be known, you could get by with not brushing those areas. It's kind of hard not to brush them when you're brushing the areas that do matter. But truth be known, you don't have to clean those areas. You're not going to get a cavity there. You get a cavity where stuff stagnates. Okay? So where does stuff stagnate? Stuff stagnates in these grooves on the top of your tooth. All right, where the Oreo sticks. All right, that's usually a pretty descriptive word. Everybody loves Oreos. Yeah, that's where the grooves are. These are developmental grooves as your tooth is forming underneath the gum. The parts of it sort of invaginate and come together down there, and there are these absolutely microscopic grooves. Now, the part you can see on top really isn't microscopic, but as you get down in there, it's very, very small. Now, as small as it is, bacteria are much smaller than that. All right? They can just sneak down in there, and you jam that Oreo cookie down in there, and it starts to dissolve, and all that carbohydrate starts sneaking down in the groove where those bacteria are just hiding. Okay, not good. Not good. All right, the part on top, well, you go and rinse your mouth out, or you take a toothbrush and brush it out. You get rid of everything that you can see. But stuff can get down in these grooves, and you can brush your teeth all day, and you're not going to get down in there because the bristles of that toothbrush in relation to the size of that groove, it's like a sequoia tree trying to get down in a crack of a sidewalk. All right. Not happening. Not happening. So what happens? Well, we have these grooves, and we go back to our little Venn diagram. We have carbohydrate, we have bacteria, and it's sitting in there till there ain't no more of it because you're not getting it out of there. Okay, well, it's a rare person that does not have at least a filling or two in the grooves of their teeth. People my age, I'm 67, people my age growing up, you were getting fillings in the tops of your teeth pretty much every time you went to the dentist. Now, part of that was because what we call caries detection. Like, how do we find cavities? How do we decide, that's a cavity?
touch her hand. Blow my mind and I'm in so deep. I can't eat y'all and I can't sleep. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Listen, hush, hush. Thought I heard her calling my name. Now hush, hush. Broke my heart, but I love her just the same. Now hush, hush. Thought I heard her calling my name. Now hush, hush. Need her.